Hi, everybody. This is Jason Garoutte, the CMO of Veza. I'm here with our co-founder and CEO, Tarun Thakur. Yesterday was an exciting day. We made some big news. And of course, for those who don't know, we announced Veza for NextGen IGA. And I thought this was a good time to step back and just reflect on how we got here and why Veza is doing this and why we think it's going to change the industry. So let's start with the basics. Like, what is IGA and why do people need to care about it?
Oh, just a great question. I'm so glad that you're starting at that basic, level, which is, look, since we've been since we started this company and thinking about this problem, and very fortunate to have some really great thought leaders and great practitioners and great customers and prospects sort of helping us refine our thinking. And I still remember sort of, the way identity was explained was, look, it has three pillars. You need the identity, which is who are you, your user. That identity needs to be governed. What can you do with that identity? And the third pillar being, are there certain identities that are privileged or elevated, right? You can do some break glass activities. And so IGA stands for Identity, Governance, and Administration, canonical definition, right, from the industry. But essentially at the heart of it is the elements of IGA is, how do users get provisioned? How do users get access? How do users perform certain actions on certain systems?
And there's a general understanding out there that if you're authenticating and you're using SSO and you've got MFA protection, a lot of people feel like they're protected. But why IGA goes a little bit further than that? Why do people need to not bank entirely on SSO and MFA?
Correct. And so, the reasons why single sign-on multi-factor, right? I mean, again, great technologies, great products built around, iconic companies were built around single sign-on and multi-factor, which was needed, right? Who wants to go write usernames and passwords on their post-it notes and try to remember? So I think those technologies were needed. We need them. We need them for the next many decades. However, why it has become insufficient is, if you look at sort of Colonial Pipeline 3 years ago, right? The most sort of a turning point in this industry, in cyber industry, is somebody got access to something that they should have never had. On the verge of shutting down the energy of this country, 2/3. And that act was a reminder, it was a reminder of how critical credential theft, credential abuse, insider threat, somebody getting access to your systems through spiffing or any technologies do you want, any form of hacking attacks do you want. At the end of the day, somebody gets access to your credentials. And once they get access to those credentials, no techniques like single sign-on and multi-factor is enough, because once I got access to Jason's credentials, I can log into your Slack and I can perform certain actions that you will never want me to perform, right? So single sign-on, multi-factor were needed. They have layered a great line of defense. However, the increased number of threats, the increased number of attacks, the increased number of identities, cloud systems, you don't access them as humans, you access them as machine identities. So decentralization of your identity, right, is just has made this problem a lot more severe, a lot more complicated, a lot more complex.
Yeah.
That a simple tool like me having username and password to access an app is not enough. It's, you're exposing yourself.
There's not a day that goes by that you don't see news of some breach in the newspaper. And, these are companies that are trying. These are companies with policies. These are, in many cases, companies that have lots of identity tools. They may even have a traditional IGA solution already. And yet, as we like to say, hackers don't necessarily have to hack in. They may just log in, because once they get access to the credentials, or perhaps they're even an insider with malicious intent. So now I think we've covered why people should care about IGA. Why is this more urgent now than it was 10 or 15 years ago? Because some of these tools have been around for a while. People have had opportunities to buy other IGA tools. Why is something changing now that makes this more pressing?
I think you said it very well, Jason. Look, IGA as an industry, as a Gartner Magic Quadrant, as they like to say, has been there for more than 2 decades, right? And so it's not new. This market segment has existed for many years. organizations have bought those tools, for the last 2 decades. The reason why IGA, in our view, needs a reinvention, modernization, revolution, right, is essentially because of three reasons. Number one, identity moved to the cloud. 23 years ago, that was not the case. Identity was sitting on-prem, called ADFS, called Active Directory. AD moved to the cloud only 10 years ago, thanks to Okta and the innovation, right? So first, identity has moved to the cloud, meaning your front door is not your front door, it's sitting in somebody else's house. Number two, as I alluded to earlier, identity is not about humans. You have workforce identity, you have consumer, you have partner, you have machine identities, you have service principals. Look at the world of Gen AI, right? These large language models running on a compute instance. Anybody can invoke those large language models to train something on a data set and perform recommendations. How powerful is that? None of these, game-changing, once a lifetime technologies did not exist before. So identity is a lot more decentralized, and data sets are a lot more fragmented and decentralized than they were 20 years ago. And then the third part is, I think you alluded to, never there goes a week. There's nothing to be said that attackers are only getting more smarter, right? They're only getting smarter. They've figured out how to get through single sign-on. They've figured out how to get through multi-factor, right? So I think it's the combination of decentralized data sets, identity being more than humans, attackers getting a lot more smarter to break through the front walls is essentially leading to why now.
I think there's also something to be said for the scale, the sheer scale and volume of systems that comprise a new kind of attack surface. And there's never been more SaaS apps. And now we've got new systems where we're bringing our data warehouses and data lakes into the cloud as well. Each one of these systems has its own unique model for controlling access. Some might call it RBAC, some might call it ABAC. The joke that we heard recently was RBAC should stand for really bad access control, right? And the point is that each one of these is a different language. And if you are in the job of security or identity or governance,
right,
can it really also be your job to read the 1,200-page manual for AWS IAM so that you know how to understand that language of access? And I guess you would say that that's just too hard for humans to stay on top of.
Correct. I mean, the example you and I talk about all the time, I still remember, when you were starting on the journey, which is, there's not one JSON, there are 50 JSONs. Like a small organization of 150 people, we ourselves have 52 SaaS applications, to your point of the volume and the velocity of the data sets we deal with. Salesforce, Workday, boostup.com, it's just 20 different tools, and all of them have mini JSONs. The JSON and your identity spread across all those systems with unique permissions, as you call them. And so far this methodology that will give JSON an access to anything in a system is just not sustainable, because we're not dealing with 3 apps anymore. You yourself have access to 50 systems. So
so the scale,
yes.
The scale is one that requires a new approach. And I guess that's where Veza comes in, right? And if you need intelligence and automation to make a lot of these access decisions on your behalf, you need a fundamentally different technology. So that's really what Veza's announcement was about yesterday. That's why we're declaring a new type of solution called NextGen IGA. So what are the key elements of NextGen IGA to answer why Veza?
Thank you, Jason. Look, the way what we have sort of defined NextGen IGA, again, thanks to our customers and sort of thought leaders guiding us on this path, is like, look, you have to first start by defining what the standard looks like. What does great look like? What does NextGen IGA mean? So essentially, from our point of view, what we announced yesterday and earlier this week, again, is sort of 3 critical elements of NextGen IGA. Number one, you have to start with access visibility and access intelligence. You cannot fix something that you cannot see. And until now, the world has not been able to see what can JSON do on Salesforce. In a simple, think of what Google did to the world's information. It provided that information on your fingertips. Millisecond of search. You don't have to go read a newspaper. It's in your fingertips, right? That's the magical experience we have given to customers. I knew Jason has access, but I never knew what he has access to. Just imagine that, right? After our launch, those kind of messages I were getting, that's the level of magical experience that Access Visibility, Access Intelligence delivers. Number two, you have to solve a business process of access reviews and certifications. But the second pillar is all about, I'm about to review Regina's access, and I now know exactly what I'm reviewing the access, rather than just saying she belongs to a group or role as a CFO. Doesn't mean anything, right? She could be an impersonator, right? Third pillar, which is perhaps the most important pillar, is this pillar of provisioning and control and request, which is, how do you flip this model where it is least privileged from day zero? How do you flip this model? Just like you said, tens of applications are being onboarded, tens of applications where Jason is getting identity. How do you make sure day zero, Jason gets a least privilege access? That's the North Star.
Yeah.
And that's the North Star we're going to go build.
So Veza is introducing a new product with lifecycle management that includes provisioning and deprovisioning, but it's marrying that with products for access reviews and for this access intelligence and visibility that people have never really had before. Of course, all this is powered fundamentally by a different architectural approach, something we call the Veza Authorization Graph. So maybe just a word on how the Authorization Graph is really unique and different from the architectures of the past.
Absolutely, Jason. There was something that you said very, very good, which I just want to go back quickly for a second, which was about natively building visibility, intelligence, and provision, which is Access Fabric. So thanks for highlighting that rather than bolt-on products that we saw with the last product for identity, product for a segregation of duty, product for access reviews, that point tooling is gone. To last part of the architecture, thank you. I think that's something that we're very proud of, which is for the observation before you put the architecture down is, you have to go, if you want to answer the question, who can do what, you have to really go to the purest form of the truth. The purest form of the truth, as you noted very well, is in permissions, and that's essentially what the authorization graph is, which is our core foundation of tying identity through the permissions to the resources in that beautiful data model we call canonical data model, realized as an authorization graph. And it really acts as a bedrock on top of which we have built all our products. Also, the leverage why we're able to build these products at such a rapid pace, right? Because of that data model. So, we think it's quite seminal, quite novel. But to your point, I think the most impressive thing about that data model is about authorization graph is applicability to a wide variety of systems, as you noted very early.
Yeah. So I think our message to the audience would be, look, if you're having trouble keeping up with managing all of your access permissions, if you feel like least privilege is a goal that is far out of sight, then maybe Next Generation IGA is the secret to success here. And whether you are new on your IGA journey and just considering it for the first time, or whether you've got a traditional tool that you're frustrated with, Veza wants to talk to you. And so if you want to learn more about NextGen IGA, please come to Veza.com. Feel free to schedule time with our team there, or feel free to write to me, which is jason@Veza.com, and I'll be happy to help you myself. Until next time, I'm going to say thank you, Tarun, for making time for us today, and we'll hope to do this again soon.
Thank you, Jason. Again, congratulations to you and the team. A phenomenal launch, one of our boldest launch, and really great work. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.